Okay, so as you continue jotting down a few of your what do I look like in 1, 5, and 10 years from now goals, I'd like to start things off just by introducing myself to you. Hi, my name is JC. I'm 43 years old. Tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in a family living in a little house just north of the city limits in Amarillo, Texas. My parents, neither one of them went to college. Actually, my dad went to college for a semester and decided it wasn't his thing. Uh, my father worked at the coal-fired power plant just northeast of town, Harrington Station. He started out there as a janitor a little bit before I was born and retired a few years ago as shift supervisor. My mom was for the most part a stay-at-home mom. She did spend some time, several years actually, while myself and my two younger sisters were of school age, working her tail off for greatly reduced wages to help pay tuition for us to go to some private schools. Um, that's not a good sign. Let's see what you're thinking of. If you want to change your color scheme, I want you to bite me in the shorts. I think I'll probably edit that part out there. No, probably. So I would not say that we were poor per se. I never felt like we were in poverty. There were a lot of things we went without, especially compared to some of the kids that I went to school with, who came from decidedly higher income families. My parents did the best that they could with what they had. I'm not going to say they're perfect, but my dad always worked hard to try and provide for us, and I always knew that my mom, put our well-being ahead of things. As I grew up, I was actually, after I got through my first couple of years of school, I was pretty good at it. My kindergarten teacher thought that I was mentally deficient and told my parents so. My first grade teacher said, no, he's not dumb, he's bored, and recommended that they get me tested. Turns out I had some learning disabilities, and that she suggested that they enroll me at a private school in second grade. I did, and I caught up pretty quick. And school always came pretty easy to me, all the way up through high school. And I mean easy to me in as much as I could ace tests without having to study for anything. I wasn't really good at getting my work done or getting my work in on time, especially when I didn't really see a reason for doing so. And so my grades weren't always the best, but just to kind of give you a gauge on how good I was at tests and stuff like that. As a junior, I took the ACT my first time and I scored 32. And I went back and took it again and got a 33 on it. And that was enough to qualify me with the college I went to for a full tuition scholarship for as long as I could keep my GPA above 3.5. Now, at that point, nobody had ever really, explained things to me. Nobody had ever really trained me to have any kind of goals or any kind of picture of what my future was going to be like. Nobody had ever really talked to me about finances. And so I went into college with some rough idea that maybe I wanted to be a teacher because I had some good teachers, but no real definite plan or steps on how I was going to get that done. So as a result, by the end of my first semester, I had nearly flunked out of several of my classes, and I was in very close danger of losing my scholarship because with nobody there to kick me out of bed and send me to class, and nobody there to make sure I was getting my stuff done, I wasn't. I was very, very fortunate and blessed to have a young lady come into my life who later on agreed to be my wife and still is to this day, who helped to straighten me out. And my second semester of my freshman year, I pulled a 4.0, got straight A's and everything, which was enough to bring my GPA up to the point where I only lost a third of my scholarship. I got to keep the 2/3 as long as my grades were up, and the rest of the time, I had to find a way to pay for that other third. But even then, I didn't really learn my lesson. And it has taken me a really long time to be able to make and plan for goals. And that is probably truer nowhere more than in the area of finances. And so the big part of what I'm going to be talking to you guys about is I'm going to be explaining to you the mistakes that I've made, I'm going to be talking about how you can maybe sidestep those mistakes, how you can maybe get to a point where debt is not something that you need to worry about because it's just not going to be a factor in your life. And you can be, I would say maybe 10 years younger than I am right now, and be probably 20 or 30 years ahead of where I am right now as far as plans go. But I'd like you to take a look for just a minute at some of the things that you've been writing on your paper there, what you look like 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years from now. And I'd like to ask you, so how are you going to get there? Everybody would like the answer to be, well, it's just going to happen because I want it so bad. That works in Disney movies. Okay, you're not in one, I'm sorry. How do you get there? And in particular, what are your biggest obstacles between where you're at right now and what you wrote on that paper? And I would like for you to just name a few of them, and I'll kind of jot them down. Who's got one? Anything?
College.
Okay. All right. So education, the education you're going to have to get for whatever it is that you want to do with your life.
Maybe just not giving up. As we start college, I know what's
Okay.
motivation.
All right. I like it. Okay. So can we say education? Can we say maybe self-motivation?
Money.
Okay. That's probably a pretty big one. Okay. What's another one? Okay, experience. I don't know if that's really an obstacle so much as a blessing in some ways. Hey, I heard another one though. That was a big one. Here. Glad somebody brought that one up. Okay, what else? Okay, laziness kind of falls with self-motivation. Okay.
Just not knowing.
Okay, all right, not knowing. Well, I'm going to put ignorance along with education because that kind of, they're two sides of the same coin, not knowing things, same kind of thing. Education / experience, like Maddie was saying right there. Now these are obstacles that you see coming.
There will be obstacles.
Obstacles you don't see coming.
Okay.
Okay. What are some things that tend to happen and you're not really planning for them?
IRS.
Injuries.
Now the IRS, you can plan for them. I mean, you know they're there, they know you're there, or they will soon enough. Okay. Injuries.
Yes.
Okay. Stuff that happens.
Car explodes.
Car explodes.
Weather.
Can we say maybe unforeseen circumstances?
Unforeseen stuff.
Okay. And that could be things like injuries, that could be things like my car died, that could be things like, worse than my car, my parents died. That can be things like, the market of whatever I was training for has all of a sudden gone under and now I don't have a job anymore. Okay? Things that you don't see coming, unforeseen circumstances. That's a big one. Are there any more? I think the second hour had a few more than that. Those are all good. What's getting in your way?
Fall into the same categories, though.
Okay, that's true. Be specific to what you wrote. Between where you are now and there, are there anything that we haven't covered here that's getting in the way? Okay, the time it takes to do it, sure. Okay, sure, so let's say time. Okay. Could we maybe slot in along with time, other personal resources, okay? Let's do time, resources.
Help.
Okay. I put that, I list that as a resource.
Yeah.
For sure, okay? Because there's only so much of you that can go around for only so long, right? Okay.
You have to have a certain amount of sleep.
Sure. Okay, what else? 11 potatoes, yeah.
I would say, I don't know, this goes with health and resources, but mental health.
Mental health, absolutely. Time, resources. I'm going to go ahead and just put health on there, okay? So, does anybody have any others? I probably have room for one more, but I think we've got a good list to start with here. Okay, so now take a look at this list, and what I'd like you to do is I would like for you to tell me which of these are things that you absolutely have no control over. Zero control.
Unforeseen circumstances.
Okay. Y'all agree with that?
Money.
Okay. You have no direct control over unforeseen circumstances. That's why they're unforeseen circumstances.
Health.
But let me ask you a question. Is there planning
Yeah.
or preparation that you can do that if you know that something is going to happen or something is likely to happen, that you can have some kind of plan in place that makes it easier to recover from?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the entire insurance industry is all about, right? Okay. Okay, so there's some stuff we can do to kind of counteract this. Now, I heard you mention health. You're saying you have no control over your health.
Like you do, but like some people can just be like unforeseen health issues.
Okay, so I'm not worried about some people right now, Peyton. I'm worried about Peyton. Peyton, do you have control over your health? Or do you have some aspect of control over your health?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, there are things you can do. You know, I know there's things I could do better. I could eat better, I could exercise more, I could sleep more, right? I could stop stressing about stuff I can't change. Okay? You know, take long walks in nature and stuff. So to a degree, you've got some control over this. Now, time is finite. I'm not going to lie. You've only got 24 hours a day, just like everybody else. And there are certain things that do take time that you really can't afford to trade away, like sleep. You know, you can slim down on your sleep for a while, but long term, you have got to have a certain amount of sleep. You've got to spend a certain amount of time eating, using the John, getting dressed, brushing your teeth, paying your taxes, all that stuff. Okay? Is there anything else up here that you have no control over?
No.
Fear.
I'd like to take a minute to talk about fear. Because fear is a big, if I had to say what's the biggest single obstacle up there, that's probably it. And here's the thing, everybody has that one. Everybody, I don't care how confident they look, I don't care how successful they seem, everybody has some kind of fear. Whether it is fear of disappointing somebody else, whether it is fear of failing, you know, fear of dying, fear of snakes, you know?
Yes.
You know, some people have a fear of success. Some people have fear of intimacy. We've all got something that we fear. The problem that I see is that people have that as their main motivator in many of the decisions they make, and that shouldn't be the case. Are there things that we can do to actively try and manage that? I believe so. Now, is fear ever going to totally go away? No. But knowing that it's there and letting it be your master are two totally different things. Okay. Now, one of the ways that you can fight fear is with knowledge. Okay? By arming yourself with information, equipping yourself with tools, with plans, with goals and definite steps on how to get there. And so part of that is what I'm hoping to get to. Now, you notice I also set money aside, because one of the other biggest obstacles up there for a lot of people throughout their entire life, myself included, is money. It's something we all have to have. It's something we all need to try and make, because, you know, eventually we're all going to need to try and spend it. But you can't get very far if you don't have it. And so a lot of times I see that these two things are very closely tied together. Would you agree? Have you ever known anyone who is worried about where they're going to pay the bills, or how they're going to pay the bills this month? Okay. Or, good Lord, how am I going to find a job? Or what am I going to do after I graduate high school? Folks, you're just about to step out in a few weeks, like Emily was saying, you know, a lot of stuff's going to change. Who you are is not going to change, but a lot of your circumstances are. You're going to go from a situation where you have been for the last 12 to 13 years, 5 days a week, 9 months out of the year, having to go sit and listen to other people talk because the state says you have to. That's about to not be a thing. And for the first time in your lives, to a degree that you haven't experienced before, you are going to have a huge opportunity to make your own choices and plot your own course. And I don't want that to be something that's intimidating. I want that to be something that excites you. So I've got a few goals for the next 5 or so days, okay? My first goal is to try and get you some tools, to try and get you some information, to get you some definite things that hopefully, to some aspect or another, you're going to be able to use in the near and far future to help you get to where you wrote on your paper there. Okay? I'm going to try over the next few days to be completely and brutally honest with you. Now, honest doesn't always mean nice. Okay? I'm not going to be telling you things that necessarily you're going to want to hear, because I'm not going to lie to you. If you want to get where your goals are, it's going to be hard. There's going to be a good chunk of it that's not going to be much fun, but it's going to be very worth it. Another goal of the next 5 days. Man, I had a couple more this morning, and I can't quite remember what they were. I'll have to cheat them if I'm going to slideshow here in a while. I want to try and answer your questions. Now, looking through some of the questions from this morning's class, there are a couple questions in there specifically about the military and military college and housing and stuff like that. I don't know much about, but I sure don't mind hitting Google and doing a little bit of research on something I don't know, or referring you to somebody who knows better than I do about things. Like I said, I don't know a lot of stuff, but I am hoping that by telling you where I've been and telling you some of these stupid things I've done, I can help keep you from making the same mistakes. Let me tell you where I'm at right now. Like I said, I'm 43 years old. At this point in my life, I am completely and totally debt-free, except for a mortgage. Okay? My wife and I, for the last 23 years that we've been married, we have never had a car payment. Actually, that's a little bit of a lie. A little bit before John was born, there were these people who were selling this old 68 Chevy Impala for $3,500, and we had $2,000 that we could pay on it right then, so we paid them $2,000, and we told them we'd pay them the rest the next month. And so when we got paid the next month, we took it out of one of our paychecks and paid it off. So we did have a car payment for 1 month. When we buy a car, we pay cash. Okay. We don't have any credit cards. I'm not saying we've never had credit cards. I'm just saying that as soon as we found out what a rotten thing they are, we completely and totally got them out of our lives and never looked back. We live in a house that we've been in for about 12 years. When we moved in, we bought it on a 15-year mortgage. And so that means in about 3 more years, even if we don't pay anything extra, we're going to own our home pretty quick. And aside from that, I don't have medical debt. We don't have any student loans to still need paying off. And there's a tremendous amount of freedom that comes with that. Am I rich? No. But I'll tell you what, something happened this last year that's never happened before. We finally got to the point where we had saved enough. Not only do we have, in a savings account, 3 months of expenses saved up. Just in case I lose my job and I can't find one, my family is going to have a roof over their head and food to eat and everything they need for at least 3 months while I go to work. For the first time ever, we have got money that we're contributing regularly to a Roth IRA, which is an individual retirement account. And the money that we are putting in there is going to mutual funds who are then investing it in the stock market, making more money, and giving us dividends. Now, if I could change anything about the last 20 years or so, I would have tried to get to that point about 20 years earlier. Because if I had been making contributions to the retirement account for the last 20 years, I'd probably be sitting on, somewhere between $200,000 and $500,000 at this point. And it would just keep getting bigger. It doesn't take much to start. But the earlier that you make investments and you make decisions to make your money work for you and not be a slave to your money, the quicker you can get where you want to get. Okay? So, in the interest of all that, let me hand you the textbook for the next few days. Here you are, sir. If you'd put your name on the front cover of that, dude. Now, I'm not going to lie, I have shamelessly pilfered quite a bit of this from various sources. One of them, if you are familiar at all with Dave Ramsey, then there's going to be some of this stuff you've probably heard before. It's my hope, though, that maybe it's going to be a little more useful to you than maybe just hearing it passing by, or hearing it secondhand from somebody else. Give me just a second. I'm going to pull this file up so I can look at what you're looking at here. So, how many of you have seen this list before? Or are familiar with some of this? Cyan's like, yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, these right here are small attainable goals to get you where you want to get. Okay, they're called the baby steps. Now, you're looking at that first baby step right now, and right now, at 18 or 17 years of age, you're probably like, yeah, whatever. Where am I going to find that kind of cash, right? If you had told me, hey, 18-year-old, go save up $1,000, I'd be like, yeah, how? Where? And how am I supposed to do that? I got stuff to pay for. Okay? So here's what I say. The whole purpose of this, okay? This is what is called a starter emergency fund. The purpose of something like this is not because you need $1,000 to make your dreams come true. This is to teach you some financial self-discipline. And I know that those are dirty words, right? Nobody wants to hear about self-discipline. But hear me out for a minute, and then we'll talk more about how we can play with this number. If I can do what I can to save my nickels and dimes, if I can not go out to eat with my friends as often as I'd like to, if I can maybe brew my own coffee at home and put ice in it, or if I can maybe, those things that I feel like I need to have, like cable TV, or internet at home, or a cell phone. Am I hurting anybody's feelings yet? Now you're like, well, wait, Mr. King, you can't get by on life without a cell phone. Well,
You can't.
what about life season?
I would just rather.
So here's the thing. Okay, we'll come back to that. Don't get hung up on the cell. Don't hang up the cell phone yet. Okay, just listen to me. Okay. I'm willing to bet there are areas in your life where you are spending a little bit here and there, that if you didn't and started saving that, before long that would start to turn into cash. Well, maybe 1,000 is a little bit too much to start with. So start with 100. Do you think that, given a few months, nickel and diming, you could probably manage to scrap together $100? Okay. Maybe you take a part-time job a couple nights a week at a pizza place delivering pizzas. You're going to pull in, $100 or $200 a night in tips. Okay. And that's good honest work. Plus, they usually have pizza to feed you, so you don't have to buy food. Okay, so let's say that you get $100. Great. Well, let's see if you can maybe put together 200. See how long that would take. Now, the thing that's going to happen is that as you start getting this cash, you're going to start thinking, oh, look at me. I'm saving all this money. I deserve to treat myself. And you're going to want to take that and you're going to want to plot it down on something. Don't do it. Once you get to this $1,000,
Don't go to Target.
this $1,000 right here, let me tell you the purpose of that. That $1,000 is there so you don't touch it.
It is not for once.
And you're like, but wait, that's stupid. Why am I saving money if I can't do anything with the money? To teach you self-discipline. Because here's the thing. If you can save up $1,000 and then commit to yourself that you're not going to mess with that, except in the case of an emergency, then that will give you a little taste of freedom. It will show you, hey, I really can do this if I really want to do what's necessary to get there. And it will help any other steps and any other goals you have seem that much more like a reality. Now, the other reason for this, besides the fact that you're not supposed to touch this, Goes back to, let me shrink it down. Goes back to this right here. So here's the thing, I start saving up some money, and wouldn't you know it, my car breaks down. See, now I've got a car bill, and man, I gotta have a car if I'm gonna get to work. So I don't have the money on me. I guess I'm gonna have to use that credit card. I guess I'm gonna have to borrow money from somebody else. And then all of a sudden, you have erased any progress that you've made, and you find yourself in debt. And debt is a slope. Once you start down it, it is easy to keep sliding. It is so hard to climb back up. But if I know that I've got $1,000 sitting in a bank that I'm not supposed to touch except for an emergency, $1,000 will go an awful long way toward, fixing the brakes on my car, or paying a doctor's bill if I get sick, and I don't have to go into debt for it. And that's just the start. Okay. Dave Ramsey has a quote, and again, if you know Dave Ramsey, you might have heard this one. Let me jot it down here. What do you think that means?
Always save money instead of spending it like everyone else does, that way you can have the money.
Well,
Okay.
if you choose to be different, that means that you're not going to have the same problems that other people have.
No, you're going to have the
Or
same
well,
problems.
you're going to be able to combat them.
But you are going to do what you can to prepare for them. Okay? And yes, you're right. So here's the thing. You guys are going to get out of here. You and all of your friends who are your age are going to start going off and doing their own thing. And there are going to be several of them who are going to take the bait. They're going to start getting credit cards. They're going to start running up credit card debt. And you're going to see them. They're going to be like, yeah, bruh, I just got myself, this new flat screen, this new PlayStation 5. You got to come over. We're going to have some pizza, have the guys over. Yeah, I just got myself, this new Dodge Ram pickup truck. Yeah, payments aren't too bad. Yeah, I'm living the dream. Yeah, but see, the thing is, it may look good. They are in debt up to their eyeballs, and when those unforeseen circumstances happen, there's no safety net there. Meanwhile, yeah, you might be, by choice, driving around a little, $800 hoopty. It's not pretty, but it gets you there. And if it doesn't get you there, it's not that hard to walk. Call a friend. Tonight you're eating beans and rice for dinner. Tomorrow night it's probably going to be rice and beans. Just change things up a little bit. But in the meantime, you are socking away every penny you can, putting toward those baby steps. So that, you do that for a little bit. You don't have all of these like credit card bills and car payments and house payments and other stuff on your list that you have to pay for before you do anything else, and you're making that money work for you. Before too long, hey, that $1,000 I saved up, I've actually saved up more like, $4,000. Okay, well, $4,000, I'll, get myself a slightly nicer car and drive it around for a while, and I'll keep saving the money that I would be putting toward a car payment, and that will keep accruing for something else. Okay? Living like no one else means you are actively choosing to not take shortcuts. You're actively choosing, at least on the front end, the less fun way of doing things, because you know the goals you have in mind. You know the plans that you've got before you. You know what you wrote on that paper. And you know that you are actively closer to it today than you were yesterday. You're going to be closer tomorrow than you were today. And so by the time, you're, Mr. King's age, you're going to have a few $100,000 building in a mutual fund somewhere. You're not going to have any debt. You're going to be able to, give that money out to people who need it. You're going to be able to travel. You're going to be able to do the things you really want to do. You're going to be able to live like no one else. If you pay on the front end, then you get to enjoy the stuff on the back end. Now, I am not just saying this because it's some kind of like fairy tale idealistic thing. Okay. Like I said, I have not always been, the wise financial warrior you see before you here. Okay. If I was, then I wouldn't be 43 years old just getting started on the, retirement side. I have had a lot of stupid mistakes. But I've also done a lot of smart, and I'm reaping the benefits for it. The key to doing this, we have to next talk about the B word. Betrayal. That's a B word, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Buried invention.
Bus.
I thought the
Budget.
See, now that word right there, some people see that word and they're like, okay, that's a bad word.
Actually, that's not really
It's like a diet.
That's not a fun word. Let me tell you what a budget is. A budget is a tool. And it's going to be probably the single most useful tool you have to help you make your money do what you want it to. You guys know what lion tamers are, right?
Yes.
Lion tamer, guy or girl who climbs into a cage with a bunch of hungry lions, and they just got the whip and the chair there. The whip's there to get the lion's attention. The chair's there to keep them from focusing on you so they don't eat you, okay? The budget is your whip and chair, and the lion is your money. The lion is your finances. If you make a budget, and you stick to that budget, and you commit that you're not going to go over on that budget, even though, oh man, it's so hard. Oh, I really want those new shoes. Oh man, so-and-so's got a PS7. I really want one too. See, this is long term, okay? It's going to happen for too long, okay? If you stick to it, put on your big boy or big girl pants, and you commit to making and living by a budget, living beneath your means, then maybe you're never going to have that. Wouldn't that be great? Do you know people who are worried about the debts they have? Okay? You don't have to. A big thing that I see and I hear, and I know you hear it too, you are being sold this tremendous lie. And the tremendous lie is that times have never been worse. The American dream is dead. There is no such thing as true success anymore. Opportunities are gone. There's not going to be jobs. There's not going to be places to live. It's going to be expensive. You're going to be moving in with your parents, eating ramen noodles until you die of obesity at age 28. Okay? That is a lie. I don't know why somebody's spinning it, but that's just not true. It does not have to be true. You know what that is? That's this MF talking. Okay? Don't listen to him. Because it's a lie. Alright? So, how are we doing on time?
About 5
We're doing okay. What I'd like you to do, we'll come back to that baby step thing here in just a minute. And maybe we're not going to get real deep into it, but let me just kind of give it a real quick mention. So, the first thing you need to worry about, don't even worry about the other ones. If you want to look up the list and just kind of see what they look like, that's great. Baby step 1, save yourself $1,000 for an emergency fund and then set it aside. Baby step 2, if you have any debt, then you're going to use a tool called the debt snowball that's going to get you debt free as quickly as humanly possible. It's not fun, but it works. If you do it right. If you do it halfway, it doesn't. Okay? Step 3, you save 3 to 6 months of expenses, and you add to this $1,000 and you make it a fully funded emergency fund. That way, when your dishwasher explodes, you got some money to sink into one. When your kid goes down the hill on his bike and flips over a brick wall because he thinks it would stop the bike, but no, cracks his head open and you got a $1,000 emergency room bill, you don't go into that. You don't worry about things. That takes fear of a lot of things that could happen, and it shrinks it. After you got that funded, see, now this right here, it's taken me 43 years to get here. Okay? And we're not quite up to this 15% yet. Okay? We're getting there. We are getting there. Okay? Now, a big question that a lot of y'all have at this point, and one of those obstacles that I think it was Braden that brought this up, is college. Okay? If you're going to college, I don't know if you've heard lately, but college can get pretty expensive. Okay? You know, there are alternatives. I mean, there's trade schools and stuff like that, but they're not free. It's going to cost money to get the education to do the job you want. That does not mean you have to go into debt. And that's going to be one of the things that we're going to be talking about on the front end of things is how you can go to college and maybe never have to have a student loan. Wouldn't that be nice? You know, you get your kids' college funds all set up, you pay your home off early, and then any money you have coming in, you are just putting in those savings, putting in that mutual fund, and your money is making money. Okay? Doing the work for you. The quicker you guys can get up that list, the faster it's all going to happen, and overall, a more fun life's going to be. Okay? So flip your page. Take a look at that next page right there. The next page I have in that packet right there, this is what is called a quick start budget. Okay? Don't have a lot of time to go into this, but this is just an idea of some things you need to kind of think about. Okay? Every month, there's going to be certain things you have to have. We call them necessities, meaning you literally cannot live without them. And those include things like a place to sleep, food to eat, clothes to wear. Okay? You gotta keep fed, you gotta keep the lights on. So housing, utilities, that's stuff that has to happen. And that's not going to go away. You can't choose to not eat. Right? You can't choose to go naked unless you're in certain parts of California, and I'm not going to judge. Okay? But there's certain things that have to be done. And there's a certain percentage of what you bring home every month that has to go into that. Now, are there cheaper ways to do all those things? Absolutely. You know, you're going to have to spend money, but it doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of it. So we'll start here tomorrow, and we'll take a little bit closer look at this budget, and I'll give you maybe some ideas on how you can live as cheaply as possible for as long as you need to. If you've got the other question cards and you haven't put them in the bucket here, come drop them in yonder bucket there. Take your paper, if you would please, and drop it in the tray there. Promise you, I'm not judging anything. I just want to see, that you're, thinking ahead a little bit.
Wait, do you want our names on this? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so I can give you a grade for it.
Yeah, makes for sure so that they use